Hey guys, this is Mitchell. Today we're gonna learn how to play Ponziani Opening. I'm gonna show you how to play against the best replies from black, but also and especially I want to show you how tricky can this opening be. After watching this video, you'll be able to play and trick opponents with Ponziani Opening. Many chess players think that Ponziani is inferior to other common openings like Lopez or Italian. However, there are some advantages of playing this line. First of all, very often your opponent has not studied Ponziani because it's not the most common line and they don't see it every day. Secondly, for the player who doesn't know the theory, it's really hard to find the right moves on the board. It can be extremely easy to make mistakes as black, because in general the most logical moves are mistakes or even blunders. And finally, there are many tricks and aggressive variations in Ponziani. All these things make this line a great weapon to play in blitz and bullet games, but also it can be used as a surprise in tournaments. Without further delay, let's get into it. So Ponziani Opening appears on the board after the moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then this move c3. The idea here is that we are trying to play d4 and create a really strong center of two pawns there. And also something interesting when we play this move is that we are clearing this line. So very often our queen is going to be developed over some of these diagonals and it's going to create some problems over here, and it's going to create many problems over these lines, especially over a4. In many lines the queen goes there and it's going to be pinning that knight, which is defender of the center, and we can create some issues for black in these positions. As always, there is a drawback, and it is that this move c3 is not really developing any bits, we are just moving one pawn, but also when we play that move we are blocking c3, and the square c3 is the most natural square for the development of the queenside knight. In this position, black can play two good moves and two main lines, and they are either knight f6 or d5. There are other moves, but we're not really going to focus that much on them. For example, there is this counter gambit with f5, and well, this doesn't really create any problem. We just play d4 here, and then this is a really nice position. We are developing bishops. The black king is very discovered here after that move f5. So in general, this position is very nice for white. And well, the other line we should take a quick look at is a sideline. Is this bishop c5, which is very dubious, but it's a very common move among beginners. In this position, they are developing the bishop, they are controlling d4, but we can still play d4. It's still fine. We have many defenders here, so d4 is very strong. And well, just to show you one of the many tricks we can have in these lines. For example, when the bishop goes back to e7, we can play d5. And if the knight goes to a5, for example, we can play b4 and the knight is totally trapped on the edge of the board. So let's start with knight f6. In this position they are attacking the central pawn on e4, but we are going to continue playing aggressively, and the right move here is d4. Here we are attacking the central pawn on e5, and black has two main options, like capturing the pawn on d4, capturing the pawn on e4. There is a rule that is going to be helpful to remember the line. Whatever pawn black takes, we advance the other central pawn, attacking one knight. So if they take here, we play e5. If they take here, we play d5. So for example, let's say e takes d4, we're going to play e5 here. Here black has two main lines, like knight e4 or knight d5. For example, knight here, we just play queen e2, and then we are attacking the knight. And for example, a move like d5 is not so good because we can capture en passant, so we have some interesting perspectives in this position. And the other line is probably a little more popular, knight d5. Well, here we just play queen b3, improving the queen, getting a tempo. Also a lot of pressure over here, and when the knight goes back to b6, we capture the pawn on d4. This position is actually equal, but well, when we analyze it, it looks really nice for white. Observe we have a lot of space in the center. Observe we have a very quick, very fast development with all our minor pieces, and we're castling. So in general, if I can decide, I could choose white here. And the other line is when instead of taking the pawn on d4, they just capture the one on e4. Here, as we said, we are going to play d5. And well, in this position, black can play, let's say, three main lines: knight b8, knight e7, or bishop c5, which is a gambit where they just ignore the knight hanging, but they try to get some compensation with the pressure here on f2. Bishop c5 is not the most common line. If black plays this, well, we just capture the knight. Then we try to get some compensation with the capture on f2, but well, in general, this is very playable as white. So let's focus on the other two options, knight b8 and knight e7. After knight b8, I'm going to suggest two options. One line where we are playing for many tricks, it's a very tricky line, and the other line where we are not playing for tricks, it's not maybe so tricky, but it's going to be the best line. So even if your opponent plays very good moves, we will have an interesting position. So the tricky line here is when we play like bishop e3, just a development move, but the idea here is that the knight is exposed in the center. And I can tell you that the most common move here for black is d6. I mean, among beginners in online games, the most common reply is d6. I can tell you that for sure. So in that position, we're gonna play we're gonna get a piece for free. We're gonna get the knight. We're gonna play queen a4. This is one of the ideas we were saying when we were talking about the move 3 c3. So queen a4 check, and after bishop d7 we get that hanging knight on e4. That's the tricky line. The other line, which we could say like the strong line for white, is going to be knight takes e5, just getting the pawn back. And well, in this position, black can try something like queen e7, and this is interesting because if we move the knight, we can lose to the queen. For example, like knight here, they can just play knight c3, and then we're losing the queen. But of course, we don't have to move the knight. We can just play here like queen d4. It's going to be protecting that knight, but also attacking the other knight. So we're getting a tempo here. This position is very slightly better for white, so it's a really interesting position. And finally, the other line here is when black plays knight e7. Here we are just going to capture that pawn on e5, and here there is a really interesting opening trap, and it is when black plays here d6. We should say that the best move for black here is knight g6, and the game could continue like knight takes g6, h takes g6, and then normal development like bishop d3, attacking the knight, getting the tempo. Knight c5, we just go back, for example, keeping the bishop on the board, and it's a position more or less equal, maybe at some point very slightly better for white with moves like bishop e3, maybe queen f3 or queen d2. This knight could be developed either over a3 or d2 depending on the position. And well, we can castle kingside, but also if we can do that development we mentioned, castling queenside could be an option. However, something very interesting here is that the most common reply for black, the move that most players like here, is a blunder, is a really bad move, and it is this d6. Observe that the move d6 is extremely logical. Anyone could play it in a blitz game because they are just developing the bishop, getting a tempo by attacking the knight, which is also very annoying in the center. So it's an extremely normal move. But well, the problem here is that in this position white is winning. The main problem is that the king is very discovered, so we can use the bishop to create some problems over that diagonal. So we can play bishop b5 here, and this position is decisive advantage for white. And we're gonna see this line a little deeper when we analyze the Masters games, but the main idea here is that if black blocks with the bishop, they are losing the bishop and also the queen, and if they block with the pawn, they are losing the pawn, but many problems over the diagonal afterwards. So instead of knight f6, the other good line black can play here is d5, and well, the idea of this move is that black is trying to take advantage of the pawn on c3. As we cannot play knight c3, the option e takes d5, queen takes d5, knight c3 does not exist, so that's why they can try this kind of breaks in the center. However, in this position we have this move very interesting and very tricky. Queen a4, this is the best move we can play here, and in this position black can try two main lines. f6, because when we play queen a4 we are pinning, so the knight is not really defending the center, we are taking, so they need to defend it maybe by f6. That's probably the best move they can try. And also they can play bishop d7, which is like a more aggressive line where black sacrifices one pawn for some compensation. It's not clear, it's very complicated, but it's a line. D takes e4 is the most common line here. However, it's very dubious. After d takes e4, white just takes the pawn on e5, and the pressure here is too much. And also remember, the bishop is coming over the diagonal to create even more pressure. If black plays bishop d7 defending, we can just take the pawn on e4, and of course this is very good for white, like clearly better. And if they defend with the queen, like for example queen d5 defending but also attacking, well, here we can just trade. They cannot capture with the queen because we're getting a queen for free, so after queen takes we can play bishop b5 pinning that queen. So the best move here for black is going to be b takes c6, and here we just develop and get a tempo bishop c4. Again, this position is just too good for white, it's clearly better. So let's focus on the two best lines. After bishop d7, this is the line of the gambit. Here we just capture the pawn, we need to take that pawn for free here, and the idea is that they want to play knight e4 discovering, but also taking over here. We need to go back to d1 after knight f3, queen f3, and knight f6. There is some pressure here on d5. For example, they are playing bishop g4 getting that pawn, so we need to defend it. And there is this move bishop c4. We are not going to continue in this line, it's just a very unclear position where we have a pawn up, and maybe black has some compensation, but well, in general we should say that this is very playable for white. It doesn't look like white has any big problem. The other line is when black plays f6, and this is probably the most normal and solid line black can try. Here we can just develop the bishop over b5, that's an option, and it's going to be very well. It's a little aggressive. If you want to play a little more slowly and something more normal, you can just play d3, and this is also very well, and this is an equal mid game. And now I'm gonna show you 3 games where masters were tricked with Ponziani opening. So the first one is like this: e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then after c3 black played this line, knight f6. Here we said d4 is the best move, knight takes e4, and here we mentioned d5 attacking the other knight in the center. Black played knight e7 this time, and here we captured that pawn on e5. Here we mentioned the best move for black is probably the only good move black can play to stay in the game and keep an equal mid game is knight g6, and in this game white played knight takes g6 after h takes g6, bishop d3, and we were talking about knight c5 in our analysis. In this game black played knight f6, c4 is defending that pawn, bishop b4 check was played, and this master as white played here king f1. Actually there is nothing wrong here with knight c3, but well, this is something I guess he had prepared for this game. And after this move d6, it is white to move. White is winning. d6 is just a blunder in this position, but those are the things that can happen when we are playing this Ponziani opening. In this position white can play this fork, the bishop is hanging, is unprotected on b4, so we have queen a4 check, and then we're getting a piece for free. So black just resigned at this point. In the other game we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and after c3 black is playing this line, knight f6 again, but after d4 black is playing something a little strange, and it is this line d5, which is not really very good. In this position the problem is that white is better prepared to this situation with this tension in the center, because we are ahead one tempo, but also we have more protection here on d4, and after this move bishop b5 the position is a little uncomfortable for black here. The game continued, bishop g4 and then queen a4, more pressure over that diagonal, and after bishop d7 just coming back to avoid any problem. E takes d5 was played, knight takes d5, there was another capture here on e5, and after a6 the bishop can just go back to e2. The idea in this position is that the queen is on the same line as the bishop, but there is nothing wrong with that this time, because all the discovered moves the knight can play are doing nothing. So, well, for example, like knight takes e5 is actually a mistake for black. Here white can play queen e4, is attacking both knights, also the king is over there, so this position is winning for white. Instead of moving the knight, which is getting nothing for black, black just played here bishop c5, but this is also a mistake. This is actually a blunder. The problem here is that there are too many pieces, too many black pieces hanging here, so white can just play a double attack, getting one of them. The knight on d5 and the bishop on c5 are both unprotected, and this master as black missed that in this line, and after queen c4 white is just winning the game. Black resigned here. And finally, this game, which is just spectacular. This game was played in a title Tuesday, but well, the combination we can see here is just fantastic. It's one of the greatest opening traps we can have in this Ponziani opening. So let's see what happened in this one. We have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then after c3, black is playing again this line, knight f6. After d4, knight takes e4. Here we said we could play d5, and in this game black just played knight to e7. In this position we are going to capture the pawn on e5. That's the theoretical move we were analyzing, and here we said the right move for black is going to be knight g6. However, it's not the most common move. Many players, even strong players, like this move d6. They play this one because they don't see any problem when they are playing a blitz or a bullet game, but actually we were analyzing this move already and we know it's a very bad move. It's just a blunder. In this position, the right move for white is bishop b5 check, and here we said when we were analyzing the theory that this is just winning for white, and we mentioned that bishop d7 is not working, that c6 we just capture here, so it's winning. But here we are going to analyze a little beyond that theory, beyond that simple analysis, and we can see that, for example, after c6 we can just capture d takes c6. That's what happened in the game. In this position black has some options, some of them with really nice tactic variations. Here black can either capture the knight on e5 or the pawn on c6. So let's analyze what happens after d takes e5. Here well, there are some ways to win, but this line is just very strong. C takes b7 is covered, and well, maybe black can try bishop d7, but well, the queen is defending here. We can deflect it like queen takes d7, and after queen takes d7 we capture and we promote and we get our queen back, but also we're getting black queen very soon. The only move for black here is knight c8. We don't have to capture the queen, we can just capture the knight on c8 because there is a pin. After king e7 we continue capturing pieces over here, and well, we don't have checkmate here, but the advantage is just too much, like a queen and rook, and also one piece and I think one pawn, so it's just too many pieces there. So in this position d takes e5 is not really getting anything good for black. The other line is when they just play b takes e6, and this is probably the best way to play. Once they got into this position they can try this option, but well, here we just capture that pawn on c6, and the idea here is that there are too many targets here, too many hanging pieces over there. So after knight c6 the advantage is too much. They could try queen b6 again, probably that's the best line for black, but here we can just go back and defend our bishop. Even if they block, well, we can just trade on d7 and then we castle, and well, this position is just too good. It's decisive advantage for white. When we analyze the material we have only one pawn, but we need to see other things. For example, the pawn structure is much better, but more importantly, we need to mention that the king is totally exposed here. Open lines over here, open lines over here, same thing here. So once we put our pieces to play, like knight a3, knight c4, bishop e3 maybe, or rook e1, this position is just going to be winning for white. So that's the best line for black, but it's not really solving the problems. In this game, we are analyzing black played something different, and it's going to create a fantastic tactic variation. So let's see what happened in this game. Black played queen b6, and this looks interesting because suddenly he's attacking the bishop. But well, the problem is that we can still play the discovered because we are capturing things over here. However, the line is tricky because black also has some ideas. Let's see. After queen b6, c takes b7 was played, which is very normal. The king is in check. And after king d8, white just played knight f7 check here. The only move for black is king c7, and in this position it is white to move, and white is winning. Feel free to pause the video and find the best continuation for white. I will explain it right now. Actually, there are some ways to win as white in this position, but also it's very easy to make a mistake. So we can still blunder here and lose the game. The wrong move, the blunder in this position, is going to be taking the rook and promoting to queen. That's probably the most logical move, but it's just a blunder because in this position black is threatening checkmate here on f2, so that is going to be a big, huge blunder here. So in this position there are some ways to win. As I was saying, we can, for example, capture the bishop and promote to queen. That's check, that's fine, that's very well. We get some material. Also the rook is hanging. In the next moves we need to defend against this threat, but the position is going to be good once we play like bishop e3 or queen f3 or just castling maybe. We're going to have the advantage. Also, we can just play here, for example, bishop e3, and then we are defending, we're attacking, and we continue with the initiative. The rook is still hanging, the king is still exposed, so it's also winning for white, but it's not the best line. The best line and the spectacular win here for white is going to be when we play these tactics we call under promotion. We're going to capture the rook and we're going to promote to knight. So b takes a8, promoting to knight. After king b8, well, of course we capture the queen, and observe this position is, I mean, the advantage is just too much. We are also capturing the rook. So here black just resigned in this fantastic and tactic line of Ponziani. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. If you want to learn how to improve your visualization in chess when you calculate 2, 3, or more moves ahead, check out this interesting video. I'm sure you will enjoy it and it will help you a lot. Thank you so much guys. Like, subscribe. See you on the next.